Hi everyone, I'm Logan from FanAmp, and I am here with Alana. Welcome, Alana.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you on and chat and learn a little bit more about your racing journey. And as we were kind of talking before the recording started, I'm very excited to chat to a fellow Canadian here in the racing world. But let's get into it. My first kind of question is just how and when did you start racing?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a more interesting background. I didn't go like the full go-kart route like most people do. I actually grew up doing oval track racing with my dad. Um, and I started in a Honda Accord that my dad and I put a roll cage in and got track ready, and we did like oval track racing. Um, and then I was about I was about 11 years old when I did my first race in that car. And what's
Wow.
also crazy is that back in like that world, it was local track racing, like small town outside of Edmonton, like very, very small racing. Um, and we didn't really do practice days. Like it wasn't really a thing because it cost so much to run the track. So the first time I ever drove a race car was at the green flag. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, hold it to the floor and hope you survive.
Oh my gosh. Would it not be a little more expensive to fix up a crashed car than get in a couple practice days?
I mean, probably, but that was just the resources we had to us. Um, and yeah, and then I did a few years in that car, and then I moved over to dirt oval track, um, where I had a very successful year. Um, I had a Fox Body Mustang, and I just like won my first race, like kind of clean swept that season, and then was like, okay, what's next? So then I moved up to a dirt track late model. Yeah, so I had a lot of experience with like this
Wow.
dirt oval track kind of stuff. When I finished my degree, so I got the backup plan so that in case I needed to have a safety net to fall back on. But then I was like, I don't know, I either need to quit this sport or figure out how to make a career out of it. I chose the latter, but what I did is I switched industries. So I was like 22 years old, starting off as a complete rookie in circuit racing.
Wow.
And I still feel like a rookie, even though I've done some serious stuff already. So it's pretty crazy because I'm like, been racing my whole life, but what I'm doing right now is so new to me.
Wow. That's so impressive. I can't believe you started so young and you were basically thrown right into it. What did your mom think of it? Was she kind of like giving your dad a little pushback or were they both on board?
My mom was super on board, um, except we did go through a phase where she wasn't allowed to come into the pits because I had like started winning and started doing really well. And she was like, do you think you could slow down? And I was like, do you know anything about racing? Do you understand how this works?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, maybe mom needs to watch from the stands for a little while, but yeah, she's good. She actually raced a little bit when she was in her like 30s. She did a handful of races. I don't think much, but she's a cool mom.
Yeah, nice. So I'm assuming did your dad race at all or not really?
Yeah, so racing is kind of like hilariously my family sport.
Oh,
My dad raced, my brother raced. Well, my dad actually still races. I went to the States a couple months ago to pit crew for him, which was fun. Um, and my uncles raced. Like there was one point when I was on track with like my dad, my brother, and two uncles, and it was just like a whole family affair, and we're in the same class too. It was
oh my
crazy.
God.
Um, but I'm the first one in my family to try to make a living off of it. Everyone in my family has always just like worked in the automotive industry, created, most of them are like, they own like shops, they're mechanics of some sort. My dad owns an auto recycling company.
Nice.
And so it kind of enabled us this like entryway into the sport. But I'm the first one to travel outside of North America for racing. I'm the first one to make money off of it, not just spend money in it.
Wow, congratulations. That is so impressive. And I'm sure your family's very impressed with it. And they're probably like, oh, like, I wish that was me.
They're all living through me vicariously right now. Thank you so
Good.
much,
That's what
though.
we like to hear. That's awesome.
What's interesting about oval track is you spend a lot of the time navigating traffic. So, like
Wow.
with the paved oval track, you're just bumper to bumper with like cars on every side of you trying to inch your way through. It's very different, and what I love about circuit racing, at least where I'm at in my career, is it feels like it's more of a you versus you. It's not as much like you versus the guy next to you. It's more of like you versus you, and if you can figure out where to be fast, you're just going to pass that person anyway.
Right. That makes sense. I guess I never really thought of it that way. But that comparison,
Yeah,
did you feel like it kind of gave you any sort of advantage when you switched to circuit racing? Like, did you feel like when you were head to head with someone, you knew what you were doing, you felt more comfortable because you were used to being in a bunch of cars almost?
absolutely. Yeah, like the when people are on my bumper, it doesn't really stress me out as much. And there's a lot of strategies from oval track racing that we use for passing that I will use. I found probably the most useful thing for me that I got from my dirt track experience is like being so comfortable with the car being sideways. So if the car steps out, if it's a rainy day or something, um, I just kind of stay in it because that's what my foot is trained to do. And it's helped me out a lot with like, the rookie phases of being nervous. I just kind of naturally don't back out.
I feel like that's definitely a good kind of subconscious skill to have as a racing driver. I
Yeah.
would definitely back out. I mean, I've never even really driven a racing car. I've gone go-karting like once or twice, but that freaks me out. So I definitely commend you on that.
That's fair. Thank you.
At what point when you switched to circuit racing, did you learn about Formula Women?
I did like one or two endurance races at my local track. It used to be called Castrol Raceway, but now it's called Rad Torque. I did like an endurance racing school there so that I could get licensed to do this. I did maybe one or two races, and I raced at Calabogie Motorsports Park in the Lucky Dog series, and that was when I met Erica Hoffman, who had won the competition the year before me. Um, and I kind of watched her go through the whole journey, and I was like, this is crazy. Formula Woman just like helped her take off her career, and I'm watching this girl race a McLaren 570, and I'm like, whoa, how did this happen? Like, I want to be involved in that.
Yeah,
And she's such an awesome person. She answered all my questions, and I was like, yeah, I think this is something I want to do. And then well, I guess the rest is history.
wow. That's so great that you kind of got into it because of a fellow racer and a fellow friend.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was nice because it's one of those things where, like, it kind of sounds too good to be true when you just hear about it on TikTok or something. But I had watched this woman go through it, and I'm like, I want to do that.
When you bring it to life too, after you see someone else doing something and then you're going through the same motions, it feels way more surreal sometimes.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and especially for me, like, and with my family background, like I wanted to be a professional race car driver my whole life, but it just no one in my family had ever done it before. I didn't have any friends that had done it. All of us were just hobby racers, also in a very different world. So to do something
Yeah.
like this seemed so far fetched for me. Like I didn't even realize it was a reality. So to have something come up that it's like an opportunity to become a professional race car driver. It's everything I've ever wanted. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not holding back. Let's do this.
So walk me through those steps. You find out about Formula Women. You're watching Erica go through it. You chat with her. You sign up for it. And then do you basically get a flight to the UK? Did you have some track days in Canada before that? Were you already based in the UK? What was that kind of process?
Yeah, so I was still living in Toronto. I still live in Toronto. I'm just spending a lot of time here right now, kind of getting like a head start on the racing season. I found out about the competition, and the funny thing is that I kind of dragged my feet on applying. At the time, I had been working with the same coach as Erica was working with. He was kind of like nudging me. He's like, "I really think you should do this," and I was like, "I don't know, maybe." I wasn't really sure what it was, and then I finally took the time to like research it and learn more about it, and I was like, okay, like it seems a little too good to be true, but let's give it a shot. So there was the application. We had to do a bunch of like online courses to at least make sure that everyone was knew the basics of racing and was going to be safe. We had a first round, a North American round. So all of the North Americans did their first round of evaluations at Calabogie. Um, and that was when I think they selected 10 of the North Americans to go to the finals. So then we all flew, there was 50 of us that flew to England. We did have a camera crew, but I feel like we needed more of a camera crew. It felt like American Idol. Like the way that it was set up, it was so stressful, like, but for all the right reasons, because it's something you wanted so badly. And like, I really wanted this. Like, I trained very hard for it. I spent every day on the simulator. I got a personal trainer. Like, to have an opportunity like this come up that I wanted so badly, I was like, I'm not messing around. Like, if this is something that could change my life, I'm not going to let it slip through my fingers because like I would rather be hanging out with friends than training. So I literally was obsessed. Like I have access to simulators through a car club that I'm part of called our club. And I would just like surface from the simulator lab with like bloodshot eyes at like midnight and everyone's like, "Have you been in there the whole time?" I was like, "Yeah."
Sounds like Max
Like
Verstappen.
literally like I went full like wasn't playing around mode. So there was a lot of pressure on me, at least from myself, that I wanted to win this. So we all go to England. There was a fitness evaluation, there was karting, on track section, and then there was kind of like a an interview and like a sponsor relation type thing. They selected 10 from that first round, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to make the top 10. I I had such a bad time in karting because it was like there was a there was a bunch of girls that were really good karters, like lots of genuine karting experience, and I think I've only ever driven like a cart a handful of times at that point, and we're in rental carts in the rain. I swear to God, I touched the brakes and spun and kept spinning. I was in the grass just like Mario Kart,
No.
still spinning, and I was like, no, it's
Oh,
over, like it's game over. But I was pretty fortunate that even though I flopped so hard in the karting, I did well enough in the other areas that it made up for me because I had a lot more in-car experience than some of the other girls, so I made up for it with my in-car portion. I was the only girl from North America to make it, and I had made friends with all of the other girls, so everyone was so excited for me. They're like, "Oh, thank God, at least a Canadian made it to the top 10."
yeah.
Um, and then the next day we did the shootout. It just came down to whoever could run the fastest lap. So we were supposed to have like 20 minutes of practice in the morning so that we could all get used to the track. Some of us had done track days there before, but at least for me, I never got to see the track before because I came from Canada. And we show up and it had snowed. So the track is frozen. So we waited the whole morning for the track to melt. And they were like, well, like
No.
everyone gets one out lap, one timed lap, and that's it. So I've never seen this track before. I like, but the whole night I just watched YouTube videos. Like I had never even stepped foot on this track before, but I knew exactly where my breaking points were. I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. They weren't telling anyone our lap times until the very end. So everyone's like, "Oh yeah, like I think that went really well." And I'm just a naturally hard on myself person. Like that's and so I get out and I'm like, "Well, I could have gotten on the throttle earlier here, like I could have braked later here." And I was so frustrated with myself. None of us knew how we did, and they like lined us all up on the track. So you wanted to either be first or second, but they like told us how we placed from 10th to first. So you're just like, don't say my
Oh
name, don't
my
say my name,
God.
don't say my name. Like that's why I'm like, it felt like American Idol because it was so stressful. There's like cameras in our faces. Like I left absolutely nothing on the table. And yeah, I think I ended up being like 9/10ths faster than second place, and I was like, woo, okay, we're good.
Yeah, that is a big margin for never having gone on the track before. Like, oh my gosh. They were probably blown out of the water. Like, who is this Alana Carter? Sign her right now.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting it because a lot of the women had actually done the competition the year before and like made the top 10, but maybe didn't make it. So a lot of people they knew who they were, and I was just like, sup.
Yeah. Wow, but you're so right. They need to, if they made that a reality show, like that entire process, like they would be making bank. I would watch that
Oh yeah.
religiously. That sounds like, have you watched Gran Turismo?
Yeah, oh my God, I watched it on the plane recently.
That kind of sounds like that process as you were explaining it. That's how I'm like visualizing the dramatics, basically.
Honestly, like very, very similar. I think ours was just done in like a little bit of a shorter span. We only did it over like the span of 3 days. Um, but that's how it felt like, and I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted, and I was so stressed, but I did the like music thing where I had a playlist of like 5 songs that I listened to every time I trained, and I was just sitting there and I was just like, just stay calm, like stay in the zone, you're good. And it paid off because here I am.
Here you are. Wow. So basically, you won that. You're getting signed. What were the next steps with that?
So kind of a combination of like opportunities the Formula Woman gave me, and then I also found some other opportunities for myself back in Canada. So I was flying over, I think I flew over a couple times last year. I went and did the ice driving in Sweden as training. That was a riot, so much fun. Um, and then we did our boot camp. So I did like a 5 day intensive boot camp over here in England. Um, and then I'm fortunate enough that I have a lot of resources back at home. So I did a lot of simulator training, lots of track days. And then I was lucky enough to race my first GT4 car in September and October at Donington and then Snetterton. And that was just absolutely surreal for me. It was amazing.
Yeah. Like you said, I guess your entire family's been in the racing world, but I was wondering if you kind of had a female inspiration as you were growing up, like a female driver that you looked up to that you wanted to be like, basically.
Yeah, so growing up, honestly, the only female driver that I knew even existed was Danica Patrick. And like I know that some people have their own opinions about Danica Patrick, but like she was the only one out there proving that it could be done, at least for me and the part of the world that I was in. And my idols have changed a little bit as I've grown up, like because I've gotten a lot more educated and I've met even more cool women. Like now someone that I love through and through is Pippa Mann. I think that she's amazing and I love what she does. And she's helped like open the door for many more women behind her, which is super cool. But yeah, childhood idol was definitely Danica Patrick.
Like you said, she was kind of the only one there, the only one in the spotlight at least, and was paving the way. And yeah, she made a name for herself and beat the boys, and it was great to see. And it really like kind of put it in perspective that like yes, a girl can do that too. So
She had a lot more challenges facing her trying to break into that industry in the time that she did. Like the world's starting to soften up towards us, but like
yeah,
she had to fight tooth and nail to be where she was.
definitely, yeah, it's very commendable what she's done in your career. What do you think has been kind of the biggest challenges you've faced so far?
My biggest challenges still is getting the sponsorship funding, especially as a woman in the industry. I think that just a lot of people aren't comfortable putting their money where their mouth is just yet. People love the idea of women in motorsport, they love promoting it, but it feels like they're not ready to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, that's definitely such an issue. Like you said, they love the idea of it. They'll be all gung ho for it. You'll pitch them and everything, and then it's kind of like, well, I think we're going to go in a different direction. Why? Like
Yeah,
I'm proving myself just as much as anyone else. I'm winning this. I'm winning that. I'm putting in the work. You're probably putting in more work than a lot of guys do. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel pretty confident in that statement. And
yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's very disappointing, like that so many brands and companies don't feel confident enough to back a female driver yet when they've proved countless times that they're just as capable.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely the biggest challenge. But the other stuff, as for like being a woman in motorsport, and I know that I can't speak for most women because a lot of people have had like all of the odds against them. I have been very fortunate with the network I found myself in, and like I have receive nothing but support for what I'm doing, and everyone is so excited to see how far I can take this. And even like my local racetrack, like even at like 14 years old, all of those guys just respected me as a driver. Um, but I do still experience it like when I go into an area where people don't know who I am, that's when I start to get a little bit like, oh, can you actually drive? Or like, what are you doing here? And then once I prove myself, it's all great, but it is still a little frustrating that sometimes you still have to prove yourself just because of that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hearing from Hannah and Morale as well. And they were saying, like, most of the racers, the guy racers, they're super supportive. They'll give you some tips beforehand. They're so excited to see you there. But then a lot of, like, their supporters or fans and stuff who don't know who they are yet, I guess, there's pushback there, like, well, what can you really do? Like, why are you actually here? And that's where they feel the kind of discrimination, I guess you could say. But it's not really from the racing community itself.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Like, honestly, my competitors have been amazing. My teams have always been amazing. Like, they have been so good to me. And the worst, honestly, the worst is the comment section. It's the online warriors that are still just like sometimes I'll be going through like even the F1 Academy posts and it's just mortifying to still see these keyboard warriors that have never driven a race car before in their life talking about how oh she can't drive because she's a woman and it's like ah
I know, nitpicking every little thing. And it's like these weird, unknown aliases with random names and no profile pictures, but they're still coming with the most hurtful comments.
yeah, literally it's like the comment section is probably the worst place to be.
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean on the bright side it's kind of like even with the algorithm right now all comments are good comments. You're helping boost our posts. So,
Yes, it's true, it's true. Honestly, like a bad comment means it's getting reach. People are seeing it. So we'll take it.
yeah, still helping our engagement.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I'm really excited to talk about this. I know that you've got a
Yes.
very exciting upcoming event in December with Formula Women. So I'd love to hear more about the Nations Cup and everything kind of upcoming for you this year.
Yeah, so Formula Women is hosting an all women's race. It's going to be in the UAE. We don't have a location secured right at the moment because we're toying with a few different options, but it will be in the UAE. And there will be 50 women competing representing their countries. So we have 50 representatives from 27 countries, I believe, right now, which is just super cool. We're all coming together and representing our country globally. It's not like these are necessarily super high level professional drivers. This is kind of an entryway to help women get more exposure as race car drivers. And um, some of these women, this will be like one of their first races. So we're doing multiple different rounds. Um, like multiple different layers of racing in it. I think that the top 10 or top 20 is going to be incredibly competitive. Um, but it's a really cool event where it's helping push people who are in the industry onto a higher level, onto a global stage, getting so much recognition and so much exposure. And then also kind of helping some of the maybe less experienced women get into it further and get to go racing. So it's a really special event that's going to be very cool.
Oh, that is so amazing, and I can't wait to watch it. Like you were just saying, I think it's so amazing that even if it's not 50 professional drivers per se, they're still getting to be, they get to showcase their talents and showcase why they get to be there.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about it is it's helped create an avenue for women who live maybe in countries that don't have a motorsports community. Like I was talking to Manisha from she's driving as a representative of India and she was telling me she's like I don't like we don't have an FIA anymore, like it's not easy to just or maybe I'm thinking of a different country, but one of the countries they were like yeah we don't have an FIA, there's no way for me to get into motorsports here, um so you have to fly to a different country, which just increases the barrier to entry even more. Like if
Yeah.
you can't get into it on a local level, how are you supposed to get into this sport at all? So we are helping give an avenue for women in different parts of the world to get into it, which is very cool. And we're supporting women getting into like the engineering side of things, the marketing side of things. It's just an avenue to get into motorsports, which can be such an intimidating sport if you don't have any connections in it. Um, but yeah, it's very exciting. I'm happy to be involved in it, and it's kind of cool too because when we did the first round of like qualification for the Nations Cup, most of us were at a pretty equal playing field. Like I was still very much so a rookie. I hadn't done much for at least circuit racing yet, and we've all had about, by the time the race comes around, almost 2 years to train. So it'll be
Wow.
really interesting to see like how everyone has developed, because 2 years is a lot of time to get experience. So it'll be really interesting to see how everyone is where they are now.
Are you excited or are you a little kind of nervous that you don't know what you're almost walking into now on the track?
I'm excited, but it is definitely a bit of like an emotional game because I'm like, well, I was able to beat all of these women before in a different competition, but that was also when we had like scoring and stuff in place. Not It's not like all 50 of us just went head to head on time. Um, and but yeah, like a lot of people have put in a lot of work, and I don't know what my competition is gonna look like, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I know that some of the women that I'm going up against are incredibly talented. The Radical's a bit of like a puts us at an even playing field too, because I haven't gotten much seat time in one of those. My experience has been in GT cars, so I have to like relearn. I'm learning how an aero car works too. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
I guess, do you feel comfortable saying you're kind of a little bit of a spokesperson for Formula Women as well?
Yeah, so I absolutely am an ambassador for Formula Woman right now. I'm in a unique position where I quit my job to go full time with racing, so I have a lot of availability to do this stuff, and I really want to help the organization progress. And this is all I've got going on right now, so it's worked out great that I've become a bit of an ambassador for them. And I love it. I love working with Graham and doing all of this cool stuff. It's pretty special. Like I have a lot of people supporting me right now, and like living through me vicariously. They're like, "You got to do this. Like, keep chasing your dreams." And it's really surreal sometimes because you know how like as you start getting better at something, then you want to go further. You're As you start like accomplishing goals, your goals get bigger. So I'm kind of in that phase right now where it's like sometimes I have to sit back and realize I am doing more than I ever thought possible for myself. And like, if me from 2 years ago knew what I was doing right now, I would be beside myself.
Yeah,
But now I want to do more.
totally. It's so easy to get caught up in what comes next. What's next? Like, I'm not satisfied with this now. But yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, looking back 2 years ago, you're looking for things to do. You're talking to Erica. You sign up. You
Yeah.
win, and now you're a spokesperson for Formula Women, and you just got back from Dubai. Like, that's incredible. Yeah, it's amazing.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I just can't wait to kind of watch all of these women do something that they've dreamed about for so long or didn't even know that it was a dream, really. That's another thing, too. People don't even know that it's something they could love as much as they do now because they didn't even think it was accessible. So I love seeing that and hearing those stories, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty special. And it's like, we're we're not the organization that's trying to get like the first or get a female into F1. Like there's F1 Academy, there's other people who are chasing that goal, but we are making doing racing as a hobby, doing it professionally, like accessible. We're genuinely making it a reality for people. So
Yeah,
it's a pretty special position to be in.
it definitely is. What do you think for you personally are some of your kind of biggest goals and dreams, I guess? And now that you're in this position, what comes next for you?
The goal would be to like fully actually race full time sustainably and to be making my profits off of being a driver. Right now, I'm doing a lot of like I do automotive events, I do instructing, I do all sorts of stuff to kind of help pay the bills because my income is not coming from racing at the moment. Um, so that would be the dream. The like absolute pipe dream, which is in line with the Formula Woman goals, is to get an all women's team to Le Mans one day.
Hmm.
Um, which is like the absolute I can die happy after that. And I don't even care if I reach that goal when I'm like 50, I'm still doing it. Like, I just want that's something I can finally die happy after I do it. Um, and then, yeah, like just to race professionally in a well recognized series, something like IMSA or WEC or even anything,
Yeah,
I'd be pretty happy.
yeah, I'm sure. I think those are amazing goals. This feels like kind of a silly question, but honestly, like, how do you start making money from racing? Is it just solely from winning, or is it through sponsorships, or is it kind of a different step?
So it's all over the place. You can win some from like you can get some from winning, but it's not as relevant in the road racing world actually. Like if you were in dirt oval track or like NASCAR oval track, there's a lot of profits that come from actually winning. Um, Most of the time, you're gonna get it through sponsors,
Okay.
like making enough money off of sponsorship that you actually pay yourself a salary from it.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And then the other like absolute dream is if you get a spot as like a factory driver and you're actually getting paid by the factory to race.
okay.
That's the like creme de la creme. That's the one that we want, but it's not easy to get a spot as a factory driver. So
Okay.
fingers crossed, we'll keep working towards it.
Yes. You never know. You never know. You didn't think, like you said, you would be here 2 years ago. So maybe in 2 more years.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Like I have learned in the past few years that you don't even you can't even plan for where your life is going to take you. You just have to keep working in some direction
Mhm.
and things start to work out. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It carves you as a person, I guess. The more you try, the more you fail. It's good. It's character building.
Yeah, it's really funny to think back on it actually because when I was like 18 years old, I had just started working in the auto show industry where I was like a data cap person. Like I asked people if they wanted to sign up to win a car or like sign up for our contest to win a car. And I just remember like being absolutely ecstatic that I got to work in the automotive industry. Like making like $18 an hour, working 12-hour shifts. I absolutely slaving. Um, and it was just the best thing that had ever happened to me. I thought that I hit the jackpot. And it's seeing like now where I am versus that is absolutely insane. Like I get to do instructing on tracks. I get to do actual physical racing. Like it's cool.
It's really, really cool. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Just hearing that, you're like exuding energy when you're speaking about that, and I can just tell how like in awe you are of basically how far you've come. So it's very exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's cool. And one of the things that like kind of makes me and my family a little proud is like my dad totally helped me get into racing at a young age and in the oval track world, but when I switched over to circuit racing, my parents pretty much told me they're like we can't help you out. Like, we don't know this world at all. My dad doesn't know anyone in the circuit racing world. He doesn't know how it works. It was a totally different world to us. So, everything that I have done in the past 3, 4 years, I've done totally on my own. And, well, not on my own. I have had an absolutely amazing network of people helping me, but like, it's all things that I didn't have any of this handed to me. Like, I've been figuring it all out on my own. So, it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. That's so like admirable for sure. So congratulations for where you are now. It's so cool to
Thank
see that.
you.
It makes me so excited about just everything Formula Women has to offer and just hearing your story because it makes it seem so accessible for other people. So I can't wait for people to kind of hear this and see this and be like, yeah, like I can do it too. Like you don't know who you're going to inspire.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, that's how much I want to emphasize the fact that it's like, yes, okay, I have a background in racing, but really, when I started out with Formula Woman, I was starting back over at ground zero. Like I was coming into this world as a rookie in the circuit racing world. So it's totally doable.
What advice would you give someone who's trying to get into the racing world themselves, but they have no idea where to start?
Yeah, network as much as possible, make friends in the industry. It is wholeheartedly a world of it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's your friends that are going to help you see success. Um, and don't push yourself like too quickly to try to do the cool stuff. Like it was very, very cool that I got to drive the GT4 car, but now I feel like I'm kind of taking a step backwards and going back and doing my homework in a little bit of a lower level car. Um, and a lot of people get excited by like, oh, I want to drive the expensive car, I want to drive the Ferrari and all of that, but like there's building blocks to it. There's reasons that people start in carts and work your way up. Um, so just it's like that Daniel Ricciardo quote. It's like just enjoy the butterflies, enjoy the
Yeah.
process, like, and don't forget to like recognize how far you've made it, because that's something that I have to remind myself every day. Is like I know we want more. I know I'm getting greedy, but like I have absolutely smashed my dreams compared to what I thought I was capable of.
I think that's very good advice. But taking a moment to just take it in and realize, like, yes, you are completing your dream basically. Like you are on track to doing exactly what you want to do is definitely a big part of a journey. I think so. I think that's very good
Yeah.
advice. So where can people find you to follow along on your journey? Do you have an Instagram or a LinkedIn?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely where I'm the most active. My Instagram is just alana.carter. Um, that's definitely where I post the most. You can follow me on LinkedIn. It's always great to have that, but I'm not as great at posting on LinkedIn because I'm a little bit candid with my socials, so I love a good Instagram story.
Good. I love that. Well, thank you so much. This has been so awesome to get to know you and hear about your story and everything. It's been so great, and I am so excited for everything upcoming for you. I can't wait to follow along on your journey.
Thank you so much, Logan. It was awesome chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.